Drum for the Song podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is another episode of Drum for the Song podcast. I am your host, Dane Campbell, and today I'm so stoked to have Brian Tichy on the show. It looks like you're in your studio there, so that looks really cool. Maybe we can talk about that in a little bit, because I believe you kind of do some recording sessions from there, like remote recording. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've been doing, I guess, more that than ever since all this, the pandemic stuff started. But I love engineering and tracking drums and recording and the whole studio process. So I've had Pro Tools. I don't know, for a long time now, probably since like 2002, and gotten pretty good at it as far as making records and editing and everything that goes along with it, from miking up things and that whole engineer side all the way to actually running the Pro Tools. You don't realize it, years go by and you're getting better at it, and it wasn't something you were had that with it, had that goal in mind to do. It just happens, like, hey, I want to record myself and be able to do all that on my own, and then you realize, hey, wait, I'm actually pretty good at editing and working Pro Tools and then just working with people, whether it's guitar players, singers, and just the whole recording process. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's always fun.
That's great, man. And I guess that's perfect for you, because you've kind of built a reputation of being like this ultimate rock session drummer, in my opinion. I know you've played with so many different people live and in the studio, so it's obviously I guess an essential part of your career now, having the studio and being able to do it yourself. It means you can keep your personal costs down and things like that, which is important.
It doesn't take that much to actually get a studio going, as far as what some might think that don't have it. I think the hardest thing is the actual recording of drums. If you have a bedroom or whatever, a living room, and you have neighbors and stuff, maybe the drums are the biggest issue. But also, in some respects, the more mics, the better, for more options and stuff. And the bigger the room, the bigger the more options as well. But literally, I'm in my garage now. I had a studio house for a bunch of years, and I was about a year and a half ago, there was a fire in there, and I had to get everything out and throw it in storage. And then I just looked at my garage, my house, which was stuffed, and I took a couple months and just went through everything and cleaned it out and figured, instead of renting another place, I'll just set up in here. But it's literally a garage. So, but I wanted to get rolling. I didn't want to make it a big deal of like building a room inside a room and all that. Luckily we don't have many neighbors around, so the volume isn't a big issue. But I don't play late at night really and all that. But we've rehearsed in here, taught in here, recorded in here, all that stuff. But basically, man, I guess it's really just knowing a little bit about acoustics and just having a decent ear. You put drums in a room and you listen to what they sound like. And, I remember when I cleaned out the garage, I stood in the middle and I clapped, and I was like, oh, it has this really unpleasant, kind of harsh tone happening in here. And then you just start kind of putting up some soundproofing, and the more stuff you stick in a room, the more, it sort of soundproofs and muffles it a bit. So I tried to find a balance in there, and then set the recording gear back up, threw the drums over behind me, and threw mics up. And I was like, all right, there you go, man. It's a drum set in a room, as long as you know how to tune drums and, place mics and don't, get decent levels, all that kind of stuff, and use your ear. Usually, I mean, it's been proven for forever. You can get great sounds on iconic records in anywhere. I mean, Zeppelin's recorded in Headley Grange, and I know that's the whole when the Levee Breaks thing, you know, which they didn't go there for that, but that's what came out of it, which is amazing. And then, from Kiss to Deep Purple, they've all recorded in non-studio environments, you know, and with great producers and great musicians, and they've ended up with great final results, you know. So I think you can put, you know, you can record anywhere, you know, as long as you have a decent ear.
That's great.
I don't even know if you need killer gear. You know, I don't have anything special. I definitely don't have anything like some of the guys I work with have, or the studio I've been at, you know. But at the same time, you know, I just read somewhere that, God, who was it? It was some famous record. The kick drum was recorded with a 57, which you would never really think was
wow.
was a thing that you do. And I remember reading on some YouTube record, Bono recorded the whole thing, you know, all the vocals with a 57, you know, with all the choices he could have, he ended up using that. So it just goes to show, you know, it's not so much about the gear as much it is about your ear, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what I like. Like, I don't have a lot of experience recording myself. My brother does all that stuff, which I'm very lucky to be able to have access to that. But I like that there's no rules. Like with drumming itself, there are no rules. And, you know, I'm always scrolling on my phone, and there's all these drum groups that I'm in now, especially because of this podcast. And there's like big arguments over whether you should play heel up or heel down. And it's just like, well, there's no rules. So, you know, there's benefits to and limitations to both techniques, and ideally use a bit of both, I suppose. But yeah, that's what I love about drumming, that there's no rules. And I'm sure you agree with me, and I think that's what's great.
I think the only rule is to keep good time.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
I think that's it. Outside of that, you know, hey, you can bash as hard as you want. You can, you know, tap as late as you want, and tune however you want, and muffle however you want, or, you know, a close mic, or only use one mic across the room, and you know, and you can play tons of fills, you can play no fills, you know. It's is it working for the song, is it working for the band, is it working for the session, you know? And yeah, so in that respect, there are no rules, and there's no rules with anything. I mean, for every you know, sort of rule that somebody may say there is, or you should kind of follow, you know, then you have a band like the White Stripes come out and there's no bass. You know, you're like, okay, here's a song on the radio with literally no bass. It's a drum beat, a guitar, and a guy singing on top, and that's it. And nobody seemed to care. They've done pretty well for themselves for a long time with that concept. I don't know if they've ever used bass. From what I know, it seems like it's just the two of them live, two of them in the studio, and that's that. Maybe there's an guitar overdub here or there or something like that, but or, you know, maybe he's overdubbing the vocals, but really there's no bass.
Yeah.
So there goes that one rule out the window. And I'd prefer to hear bass. I don't think I'd want every band to not have bass, but it works for them, you know. No, but so it's all cool. You want to, you know, heel up, heel down, whatever, you know. If the drummer tracked it and the bass drum's locked up and it's a good take, and he used his heel up or heel down, who cares? Nobody's even going to know.
Exactly, man. That's cool. So can we rewind a little bit now and kind of if you can tell the listeners about kind of how you originally got into drumming or music in general. I know you play other instruments as well, which is always a useful skill to have, I think, as a drummer.
Yeah, I just started playing drums because as a little kid, because I thought they were the coolest thing in the world. It was really that simple. I just started noticing at a real young age that I paid attention to a drum set more than anything else, you know, and I started paying attention to the drums in music more than anything else, whether it was something on the radio or a TV commercial. I'd kind of listen. I couldn't even play drums, and I go, oh, that's a cool sounding snare drum. Oh, I don't like that one so much. That's cool. You know, not knowing why. But my parents were musical, and, you know, they could both play piano and sing. My dad could play guitar and all that. So they had me taking piano lessons, I think in, God, like second, third grade. I took a couple years, and I didn't like it at all. And I had no desire or interest really, but it didn't hurt. I looking back, I wish I stuck with it and, you know, got better at it, because piano's amazing and I understand it, but I barely ever play. If I had to figure out a chord and hit it, you know, I could. I understand, you know, music theory and stuff like that, so I could, you know, find the notes and get something across if I had to. But as far as actually playing, no, that's not going to happen at all. And yeah, but whatever. Somewhere in there, they got me like a fake drum kit from this store called Sears. It was like you'd have like Sears and JCPenney, and you'd get these catalogs in the mail around Christmas time. I guess you'd always get catalogs, but they'd have everything in the store, and you'd flip through to the toys section, and you'd see some guitars and drum sets, and I don't know if I asked for it, but this was like 3rd grade, so I was probably like 7 or something, and then 7 or 8, and they got me this fake. It was a drum set, but it was you know, paper heads and no hi-hat, and there's maybe a wood block and a splash cymbal, and and you know, and everything was like attached to the bass drum. I think, you know, it was all like kind of welded on, so you had a snare drum and 2 toms and maybe a little floor tom. But the bass drum, I remember, sounded so bad. It sounded like it's like bing bing bing. So I never played the bass drum, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I could keep time. I could sit there and go dit 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 dit, and I just put on Kiss records and keep time. And maybe I'd learn a fill or something. And then that drum set, that fake drum set broke up. It was called the Dynamite drum set. It was like all made of cheap metal or something. and I don't even remember, you know, I know the bass drum sounded terrible, but it wasn't about the sound. It was just the fact that you could have something called the drum set there. And that thing broke up. And then they said, if you start taking private lessons in 4th grade, and you stick with it, we'll get you a drum set. So that Christmas I got one. And a Leedy kit, which is really awesome, because I didn't know anything about Leedy at the time, but Leedy was a huge brand back in the day, like pre-Ludwig and all that. They were one of the biggest, most popular brands of drums. But I had that for a bunch of years and got rid of it when I got a new kit in high school, but I kept the snare drum, which I'm really happy I did, because it has a really unique sound to it. And I threw it in the garage, and then I took it out and fixed it back up and started taking it on tour and recording with it. And then, I don't know, some parts on it broke, and I left it sitting around for a long time years ago. And then I don't know, 5 years ago, I busted it back out and fixed it back up, and it's killer. So I use that a lot now, because it has a distinct tone to it. So I've had that drum since, I was like 8 or 9 years old. But that was it. And I just started playing. I started, I just understood it. It just made sense, like, to keep time. And, you know, just the idea of, you know, beats and fills, you know, kind of made sense. And I just thought drums were the coolest thing. And a little bit down the road as a kid, I just kind of knew in my head, that's all I'm going to do. You know, that's, if I can do one thing, this is what I want to do. I have no clue how I'm going to do it and all that stuff. But, you know, this is what I like more than anything. So here we are decades later, and still doing it.
Yeah, man, it's such an incredible career as well. I've spoke to a lot of great drummers on the podcast so far, but I don't think many of them have played for as many kind of prestigious kind of artists that you have. So with regards to recording then, what are your favorite recording sessions that you've done, or albums that you've played on, or ones you're most proud of, or you think the listeners should go check out maybe?
That's a hard question. I've played on a lot of records, and but yeah, I honestly, there's probably nothing I'm more proud of. I think, like, credit wise, it's cool to say, you know, I played on records with, you know, well-known artists. I think that's I guess, you know, that's a cool achievement. Whether or not I think that's the best sounding performance or drum sound or whatever, that's a different subject. You know, yeah. I think I've gotten my favorite drum sounds I've gotten doing on my own, you know. But no, I mean, I off the top of my head, just getting the experience to record with Steven Tyler for a single he released after he put a book out and put a single out along with it. I think it was called "It Feels So Good," or I think, and but yeah, just I was working with the producer who co-wrote it with him, and we were doing something else, and he said, "Hey, Steven's in town, and I've got drum machine on this song. You want to do it tomorrow?" Because we're all set up and we're recording, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. So, but it was really cool just because, you know, we've heard all the stories about, you know, I guess Steven's he's a drummer initially, and he could be maybe, you know, I don't want to say difficult, but he could have definite ideas of what he wants in the studio, and maybe that's become a thing between him and Joey Kramer or whatever. And I grew up on Aerosmith, and I love Joey's drumming, and I mean, that was, thinking back, that was Aerosmith was huge in my, you know, formative years of learning how to play drums. So much of it's just Joey's drumming is great. It's sensible, and you can understand it, and he plays for the song, but there's great stuff inside it, and he's solid as shit, you know. And I look back, I'm like, God, I played, you know, thousands of hours to Aerosmith records back then, you know. But anyways, just to, you know, to fast forward all these years and be in the studio with Steven, and he was super cool, and we had, you know, I had the song, we checked it out the night before when he came in, so I had my parts sort of planned out, and yeah, this is a bit of a long-winded story to your question, but
that's cool, man.
But it's just a cool story because I was totally nervous, you know. It's Steven freaking Tyler, right? And so he and Marty, the producer, behind the control room window, and all right, go for it. So I did a take, and they instantly go to the chorus, and they start A-Bing my drum take with the drum machine. And I'm like, oh man, they're probably listening to groove and feel, and, you know, am I locked in? Am I pushing? Am I pulling? Oh God, Steven's probably not happy. You know, I'm like bugging out, thinking this could be a really sucky experience, you know. And why do they keep playing this A-Bing these, you know, my version to the original? Like, what, you know, this chorus. And Steven gets on the talk back, and he's like, hey, do you have another snare drum with higher pitch with some more ring to it? And I was like, okay, they were listening. He likes the snare drum on the demo, you know, and I go, yeah, hold on. I went and grabbed another snare and cranked it up and put it on. And then they said, all right, cool, you know, do another take. And I did another take, and they A-B'd quickly again. And then Marty's like, hey, come on in. I came in the control room, and Steven looked at me and said some really nice things, complimented me. And I was like, cool. All right. So it was really about the snare tone and the snare pitch. And that was it. They played it. We listened a little bit here and there to this section, that section. And Marty's like, yeah, I think we got it. Stevie's like, all right, great. And that was it. We were done. So it was
wow.
a 2-take thing. But yeah, but you know, just those are great experiences to be able to work with somebody that's he doesn't realize how much of an effect his band and him as a musician and singer songwriter has had on me. And you don't want to go in there and start babbling all about that. You're there to do a job and, you know, make them happy with the drums. But you're like, man, there's so much I want to say. But at the same time, I'm not going to, you know, this guy, he gets it all the time. You know, this is his life. This is, you know, people coming up to him. And so I just want to be cool and get the job done. And I definitely don't want to see implications on his end that I'm bothering him by like over talking and babbling about, you know, whatever. But anyways, at the end of the day, I was loading up the drums, and he came in and he starts just talking to me as I'm packing up and telling me he used to carry drums around. He was a drummer too. And it's just he and I in the studio at the end of the day. And I probably could have said a lot then, because I gained his respect as far as, you know, getting the job done in the studio, you know, but I didn't. I just had I probably didn't know where to start, you know, but I did have my ticket from seeing Aerosmith in high school, which he signed.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, but like, you know, so that was just really cool, because after that he called me a couple years later to do a fundraiser, John Varvatos fundraiser with him and Joe Perry and Robert DeLeo on bass from Stone Temple Pilots, and we got to rehearse the day before that, and we just played, I don't know, like 10 classic Aerosmith songs, and the rehearsal was just amazing to be in a room with him and Joe Perry and play their songs. It's like they don't realize that I was literally, you know, a 9-10-year-old kid playing the Aerosmith live bootleg and Toys in the Attic and, you know, Rocks and learning how to play drums to those two guys, their music, you know, that I'm sitting here now playing Walk This Way with them and Sweet Emotion and Dream On and stuff I grew up, learning how to play drums too. So those experiences just make it all worth it. When you have ups and downs, you go, hey man, there was times where I've been in these places I never thought I'd be. So, it doesn't mean every day you're going to wake up and the phone rings for some iconic artist to call you and you're working with them. But hey, if it happened here, and here, and here, and it's been decades later, I'm still doing it. Well, that gives you hope. It gives you hope to think that, as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, there's always going to be a need for a drummer somewhere, one way or another. And hopefully with a little luck and decent timing, as far as drummer timing and timing, just timing throughout your life, you end up in a position where you can take advantage of those opportunities, So, but yeah, that stood out just because it was a one-off recording experience. And I don't know how many drummers have actually recorded with Steven Tyler, So, that was I think that was a really standout thing. But also just writing and recording with Billy Idol. When I was his drummer for a few years, and we started writing together, and we hit it off. That became like his comeback record, and we did a Christmas record, and we did more songs for his greatest hits, and a whole mess of other stuff that hasn't come out yet, and then just playing on records with Foreigner stuff and Whitesnake and even I don't know when I'm starting. It could be today. I'm waiting to get the tracks, but I'm starting a bunch of songs on Michael Schenker's next record.
Oh wow!
I did stuff from last year, and that's the cool thing about having a studio is like they can. We're all in a pandemic, and his producer, they'll say, Brian, can you do some songs on Michael's record? Are you kidding me? Like, I've played with Michael a couple times at some NAMM events and recorded one song from a long time ago. But I've never been his drummer, like his touring drummer or in his band or anything. But when they call you and go, yeah, it's like they send the session over and you get the stems and bring it up, start making your charts. You hear what the drum machine's like. Sometimes you ask them questions about, do you want me to stick to like the vibe of the drum machine, or do you want me to go off a little bit? Or, you just try and, you want to send them what they want as close as you can get. And then you got to kind of think, okay, what kind of drum sound, and all that, so I did a bunch of that last year, but that's what's great about having a studio is literally I can just get a session right now and just throw it in the studio and get the set the drums and the mics are always set up, but just to dial everything in, make sure everything's in its place, and check my levels and start making my notes and make my charts and start tracking, and get it going, but it's that was a cool thing to have. It's always been a cool thing, but it's cool in a pandemic where you can't go out on tour and nobody's playing live and everybody's at home. I don't have to worry about lugging drums to somebody's studio and working with engineers, and all that, which I'm cool with. I learn every time I'm in the studio with somebody or with an artist or a producer, engineer, all that. It's great, but so it's more satisfying when you actually do it all yourself and you send it to them and they're happy. I've been doing a lot of stuff since last summer with the mixing legend Chris Lord-Alge.
Of course, yeah.
He it was just a one-off song. It was an artist that needed a drum track done, and my buddy Phil X was doing the guitars, and Chris was like, "Hey, do you know any drummers that could do this?" And Phil's like, "Yeah, my buddy Brian." So they sent it to me, and Chris was happy. And since then, he sent me a lot of stuff over the past year, whether it was the same artist or different singers, a female rock vocalist, or a Czechoslovakian singer, or Slovakian, or Czech Republic, whatever you want to call it now. But yeah, just different stuff, and it's always fun because he just wants the dry tracks. He just wants my which everybody gets, when I send a session or the tracks to somebody, they have the dry tracks, but then I'll also send them a stereo mix of what I did to get the sound I got, because I'll usually send somebody an MP3 of like their song with my drums mixed in, and sometimes they'll want to use the plugins and whatever I've done to get my drums to sound beefed up a bit. And sometimes they totally like somebody like Chris Lord-Alge he doesn't care. He's a master at what he does, and he knows what he wants to do. So as long as my tracks are solid, the levels are good, and the drums sound good, he works his magic and sends me what he's done. And it always sounds great. It's cool to be able to, it's satisfying to be able to, sit here on your own and go, hey, there's an art to this. And I taught myself, and I definitely don't know nearly as much as a lot of people, but at the same time, put me with a drum set in a room with mics, and I'll be able to pretty much get the job done. I think I've been doing it a long time, and it'd also be a lot of fun to do it with if you actually had an engineer. But
of course,
I've learned I do it myself just because it's less talk, and the more you can do on your own, the more you learn. But there's been times I've worked with people, I've played on their stuff, and they know how to run Pro Tools, so we're working together, and it just makes it easier as far as they're sitting there, yeah, cool, do that, or we'll punch in here, or try this fill, or you can get instant results when you're working with somebody who knows exactly what they want, and you can work faster. But yeah, anyways, I've been babbling for one question for a while, but no, it's all cool, man. I mean, it's just nice to hear if somebody says, hey, I like your drumming on a record. Yeah, that's cool. But I think I mainly like when people mention the sound, and mainly probably the snare drum sound, because that means a lot to me. If somebody goes, man, your snare drum sounds great,
Yeah.
It's like everybody's got a different preference on what they like in snare drums, but if you can really tune and hit a snare and get it to come through how you hear it in a mix, I think that's not an easy. So much can be lost in the process of tuning a drum, hitting it, recording it, putting it through a preamp, EQing it, blending it with the rest of the kit, blending it into the music, and then mixing, and then having that sound a la my favorite snare drums like Bonham, Van Halen, and some certain Peter Criss stuff, and DeRozier and Bruford, and it's like, wow, how'd you manage to keep that tone all the way through the whole process, and it's coming out in the mix? That's amazing.
Yeah, that is cool, man. Now that's really inspiring and encouraging, and to show that you can be self-sufficient, get the job done. So when it comes to playing songs on other artists' albums, songs, or whatever, obviously you mentioned the example with Steven Tyler when he actually had a drum machine. Do you quite often get a situation where it's just, this is the tempo, do what you want to do? And when you're in that position, do you have any tips for the listeners, or how to drum for the song? Because this is the name of the podcast and stuff like that. It'd be interesting to know from someone like yourself.
I mean, the simplest answer is you just have to be smart, and logical. I mean, I think I've said it before, like you don't want to play Neil Peart fills on an AC/DC track, and you don't want to play, like Phil Rudd on a Rush vibe session or something. It's like there's usually somebody's going to tell you something. There's going to be somebody, but I mean, I've gotten sessions where the drums, oh my god, like the drum machine is just. You're like, I don't even know what you were thinking. Maybe the dog was walking over the drum machine when you were in record, because I've gotten drum machine programmed from people that aren't drummers. They have ideas in their head. I want progressive, like metal drumming, and they're writing this music, but then I want a lot of ghost notes, and I want a lot of fills, and I want a lot of things, but it's like, they don't really know how to play drums. So it's like, wow, man, there's these things are kind of cool drumming sounding things, but they're not really fitting with the song. And you have to figure out, like, how close do you stick to this stuff that you're hearing versus, what would be better for the song. Then you just have to ask questions sometimes. Hey, if I'm unsure of something, it could simply be a bass drum beat where you're like, hey man, the riff is on the of 4, but you're hitting the end of 4 on the bass drum. It's, that could be a thing. That could work, but it's sounding a little disjointed to me. No, man, the drum machine was just thrown down, man, just to get an idea across. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. And sometimes people tell you, keep it simple, or do your thing, and there's no one answer that's gonna get you to. I mean, in my head right now, I'm thinking, when I work alone, when people are sending me stuff, which I've been doing more than not now, or more than working with people in the studio.
Yeah.
So I have to think more, I have to think about, I want to get this. I don't want to send them stuff and they go, oh man, change this, and this, and so you go, okay, you can also tell by how much time somebody put into what they sent you, it's usually, I'd say a 99% success rate of what I send people,
That's great.
Which is just trying to be logical. Like, what kind of song is it? Is it an AC/DC style song? Is it a Metallica style? Is it is it progressive? Is it, funky? And then you have to be, you have to be smart, like, by just listening to what kind of song you're playing to and go, well, I'm definitely not going to do this kind of thing in the song, or I definitely can do this thing, if it's like more unknown artists that, like up and coming, hey, I like your drumming, I've, whatever, been a fan of your drumming, well, then they're going to trust you to make, they're going to be happy, not just with whatever you do, you're still going to, give them the same care of the final outcome. But, if you stick in a little bit of your own stuff, a little bit of like a showy this or that, they're usually like, oh, cool, man, thanks. You stuck in a little bit of stuff that somebody else might not have done because you play how you play. And that's what we wanted. We wanted you to play your style. And sometimes it's just a groove thing. Like, hey man, this is an obvious, whatever song that sounds this way, and we want you to do your thing to it. And it's more about the groove, and hopefully that's huge to me. If somebody, I mean, that's as important to me as anything. If, or more important than anything is your groove. If somebody's actually hiring you because they like how you, keep time and how you groove, that's like, because I think that moved me the most, when I heard drummers that grooved a certain way. It was like they made a song feel a certain way. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to move the band and the song and then the listener based on groove. When you hear Bonham kick into like freaking Misty Mountain Hop and he's like, God, do boom, 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 pop, boom, it's just like, I don't want to hear anything any other way there. That's perfect, and it made me, his drums sound a certain way. He's grooving a certain way. But man, it's that's so much cooler. Boom, 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 bat, boom. It's so much cooler than if he did some speedy super fill into some busy beat. Like, you know what I mean? He fit the vibe of the song and he made it even bigger, and cooler, But as far as suggestions, I think it really is just being smart and asking questions if you're really unsure of something. But like I said, everybody's different, and whether you're in a studio session with freaking Steven Tyler staring at you when you're tracking for him, you got to let you got to control your nerves and just be, think about why you're there. I'm here because the producer, thought I could do it, and we've worked together before. Great. Well, he trusts me, so what am I going to do? If there's one thing I do, that's another thing. If there's one thing I do on this planet that's okay is play drums. Well, this is the time to prove it. And why would I puss out and let like nerves get the best of me when I have a chance to really prove something to myself and to this guy that changed my freaking life, that's been a huge part of my life since I was like, 9 years old or whatever, like, come on, man. This is what have you not been working for this? Have you not put time into freaking rock drums to be able to play along to a click and in a studio to have it, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like stage fright, man. I've had more stage fright just like I remember filling in for my buddy Ray Luzier when he used to teach at MIT. He'd go out and, hey, Brian, can you fill in this week or whatever, a few days? And I sit in front of a class. I've never taught in front of a class. You got 20 drummers. You're supposed to explain something. Yeah. I remember almost blanking out speaking. I had to stop. What the hell am I talking about? Because I was so nervous. But put me behind a drum set in a big venue in front of a ton of people. Rehearsed, ready to go. Are you kidding me? Like that's what I dreamed of since I was a kid. I don't. I'm not saying I'm not nervous because I'm so badass that I'm not nervous about. It's just, it should have some sort of confidence. If, behind drums, how many years have you been playing? You've rehearsed, you're in a band, they're paying you to be there, and you've got a job to do. This is not the time to second guess what you do with your life. You know what I mean?
No,
you
totally.
Want me to like fix your computer? Well, have fun with that. That's going to suck. and I'm probably going to break your computer because I don't know what I'm doing, but and with each experience, whether it's studio or live, you get it. That's huge. You can have all these tools and all these years of practice, but there's nothing that changes those experiences of pressure. Each time you're in the studio, or you make somebody happy, or you do a good drum track, or you go play live and you did a good job, and the band's happy and you're not getting fired. It's like all that stuff just makes you better. It doesn't mean you technically it doesn't mean your paradiddles are going to get faster. It just means you're going to sit down each time behind those drums and play with more confidence, and I think it can go two ways. You can either, some people can maybe get cocky with it and think, oh man, I'm all that, this is what I do. I'm a badass because look at me, I'm here. It's like, yeah, man, it's just like there's 1,000 other drummers that want your gig. And if you're a little too cocky and it shows, or you start overplaying because you think you're, everybody loves what you do so much that you're going to show them even more than you need to now. And you're going to change the vibe of the song and that could ruin it for you, So you have to just be smart. Like, hey man, it's experience, it makes you more confident, but you don't want the confidence to overcome it, to transfer into your ego too much. You just want to keep them balanced and whether, like I said, whether it's the studio or live, but it does help. And I tell students that a lot. I'm like, man, I want to show you stuff to make you better. Like some students that, oh, I want to learn this thing. And I'm like, I can show you that thing, but you're not ready to get to that thing yet because there's like these 10 other things you need to do to be able to do that thing comfortably. Right. And, so I'll teach somebody what they want, but I'll usually be like, hey man, we should work on these other things first. And then, even something like hi-hat independence, since we are on a drum, doing a drum based interview here.
Yeah, of course.
Like I've had people like local drummers and cover bands where they don't really use their hi-hat to keep time, but they can cut the gig. I mean, I don't know if Lars Ulrich uses his left foot to keep time. I don't know. And I don't care because he's in Metallica and he's kind of done better than just about every other drummer on the planet for the most part, so you got to respect it. But with that said, the art of drumming, I enjoy the fact that that limb can kind of keep time and be on its own, and it makes me play a different way. And then there's the other thing, if you're fortunate enough to get into a band where you can do your exact style as you do it, a la like Angus Young or Lars Ulrich or whatever, if that can be your thing and that's your personality, man, that's like, to me, that's the coolest thing in the world. You're in your own band, creating your own music and playing how you play. You don't have to play to make the guy in the session happy. You're not on a Steely Dan session and you have to fit into this song like freaking Angus Young. You're going to do Angus Young, and that's all I need because you are amazing, and so same with, Lars. Hey, he might not be able to go into a session for some other bands and get he might not be right for it, but it doesn't matter when he's playing in Metallica. It just does not matter. He's going to play those songs that he's wrote with his band as he plays them. And there's going to be more people watching him than, just about watching anybody else on drums, So it's like, but I still say, hey man, if you're a drummer, the part of it is, you got 4 limbs and there's lots of stuff you could do. And one of them is keeping time. And I feel like it's dancing on a drum set. And so I've had to think, yeah, you're cutting your cover gig, and you're playing but is that where you want to stay, or do you want to get to the next level? Because you may not use some of these things we're working on right now with some hi-hat independence, but I'll tell you, once you get comfortable with that and you can feel it, it's like riding a bike. Once you get on that bike and ride and you feel that balance, it just never leaves ever again. You know, we all know that feeling when we were kids and your dad's holding the bike and you're like, and then he takes his hand. I did this with my daughters. Take my hands off for a half second, put it back on, a little bit more. And then eventually they're like, you know, you're running next to them. You're doing it yourself. Then your body feels that equilibrium and that balance, and that's it. Done deal. Same with, you know, when you finally learn how to, you know, do something on the drums and keeping 2 and 4 with your hat or eighth notes or quarters or whatever, and you're doing some other stuff. And all of a sudden you feel how it all works together. You can't tell me that's not going to build your confidence, and that's not going to make you a better overall drummer. And when you're in situations where you need to, you know, make other people happy, not just your original band, which is like I said, I think that's the coolest of the cool, is to have your own band and do your own thing, and that's it. But if you're a studio guy, man, hey, that's also awesome. You end up having these with great experiences. And if you can get it done and producer's happy, the artist is happy, well, you walk out of there with that confidence, and you walk out of there like, cool, man. You know, it could have been disastrous. You know, I could have had a whole different story with Steven Tyler or any sessions I've been in. That was probably just the most notable one, because it's Steven Tyler, and you're playing drums with him, and it's a one-off. And I think we met a long time ago when I was in a band opening for him, but who cares? You know, he didn't know me. And but that experience, then he called me a couple years later to do a show with him, and then called me then his drummer in his original band that he had a few years ago. They're called Loving Mary. It's the female drummer in the band. She couldn't do a gig, like a corporate, so they asked me to do it. And so it's like, come on, now I've worked with Steven 3 times, you know, in 3 separate settings, you know, like playing Aerosmith stuff with him and Joe Perry, doing a corporate event, and in the studio, you know. It's like, it's cool, you know. Maybe it'll never happen again. Maybe it will. Whatever. I don't wake up and worry about it, you know. But I just know that's all stuff, you know. That makes you more prepared for everything. Just like in the studio, you know, just ask questions if you have to, but you don't want to ask too many where you sound like you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, there's a fine line, I suppose. With a lot of this is this finding the equilibrium between what you want to do, what you're capable of doing, what they're kind of expecting, and I guess you just got to try and find it. But
but in the studio, just be consistent. You know, that's hit consistent. You know, I don't know how much. You know, it sounds simple, but it's a thing, and you know, I think all of us drummers know that. We know that, but there is a difference between like a good live drummer versus a studio drummer. I guess you can be more sympathetic live. Things happen differently live, but in the studio, you know, once again, who are you working with? What do you have to get done in there? How anal are they going to be with you pushing and pulling to a click? You know, like, I don't even know. Like, I read drummers talking, oh, you know, I pulled back here, I pushed here. I'm like, I'm impressed, because I don't know how to do that. Like, I just know I hear a click. I try and stay with the click.
Play on it.
and somewhere in there's groove. There's the feel of the song and how you're going to play to that song to make it groove a certain way, you know, which has so much to do with, I mean, the space between the notes is huge, but I don't know I just know that feel is feel. We all feel a certain way. You know, you're in a good mood, you walk a certain way. Some people walk faster through airports than others. Some people, you know, everything affects you, you know, and how you do things in your rhythm and your groove, and how things move you, you know, and we all have our own groove. And I mean, God, like, who doesn't love Steve Gadd's groove, and who doesn't love Bonham's groove? But they're not the same. But oh my God, I listen to both of them, and I'm just like, you know, they're both sick. You know what I mean? And they're not the same. But then you know, there's tons of other drummers that, you know, may not be known for like groove or whatever, you know, that I love their feel, and I love how they make that band feel. So, but it's just, but consistency, you know, like outside of that stuff, it's, man, if you're playing a hi-hat, like, maybe I see it more from teaching and stuff, but it's like, you know, you can't, the snare, you got to hit it in the same place pretty much all the time. Like, I mean, it's not going to be exact, but pretty much where you're getting the same sound. Kick drum, you want to look at those levels. I remember being blown away when we first got Pro Tools and I could see the waveforms, and I was like, oh my, this is the coolest thing. You can actually see what you just did. And I remember, some people in the studio were like, man, you're consistent, look at and yeah, you could look at the wave, you can see it.
Yeah,
there's the bass drum track, and but it can also be a bit of a bug out, if whether you're editing yourself or engineering and producing yourself or whatever, you can start like digging in too hard to those waves and looking at how you play around a click and go and oh man, I did a double on my foot and the first one isn't as hard as the loud as the second one, but boom. Yeah, but it never has been, it's probably never going to be like, at a certain tempo and a certain groove, it's boom, so, but is somebody going to look at that and say, oh, he didn't hit the kick hard enough? No, it's a feel thing. It's the way it feels, but so you can't bug out too much. It's just, and then you turn the click off and you listen to yourself playing with the track and how's it, and usually I'm like, oh, cool. All right, I'm playing with the track. As long as it feels good, that's the main thing. And then I turn the click on and I'm like, oh man, I pushed here. I pulled here. That feels a smidge rushed. Every time I go around the drums, I'm a little excited and I come out of the crashing early. Why do I do that? I've been playing drums for a really long time. And it's like, well, because you weren't anal with a click as a kid. You were playing the rock records, none of which had clicks. You really in the 70s?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then that brings up a whole other thing. Who cares if you're perfect to a click? Like, yeah, we have to play to a click and I get it and make it feel good. But to me, in the bigger picture, the drummers were the clicks, were the rhythm, were the timekeepers, and everybody should play the drummer. And if the drummer is a good feel and everybody's playing to him, then who cares if it's a pushy or pulley thing? Because I always go back to what is it? Is it Brown Sugar? No. Honky Tonk Women. The cowbell starts off, it's really slow. And then Charlie Watts kicks in. And then the verse kicks in. By the time they get to the first chorus, they're like way faster than they started. And then they even get faster, I think, into the second verse. Who cares? Like, has anybody ever complained? Was one person at the record label, one person at a radio station, one person called in and go, that new Stone single, man, they speed up too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Like, that's the Stones. And I know that's different than like a Nine Inch Nails song or something like that, and it's a different thing. They're both rock and roll, but they're different. But I don't know, like Phil Collins, like Genesis Abacab. Is he playing to a click on like Abacab? I don't think so. I mean, it was like what, 81 or something, 83, I can't remember, but I don't care, man. He sounds killer. He sounds solid as shit, and why, who cares, so that comes back to, it's about feel. But you got to be able to make people happy in the studio. That's it. So start by being consistent and practice to a click, and
that's definitely really
it's going to make it's going to make it you have an easier time all the way around if you put the time into playing to a click and listen back to yourself. And I used to record myself playing to records and listen back to myself like when I was a kid, and like I pushed, I pulled, because I'd always put myself in the position of I want to be that guy in that band. As a little kid, as like I'm going to play as if I'm actually Joey Kramer and Aerosmith. So that means I have to nail this whole track. I have to nail this whole record. I got to nail Aerosmith live bootleg live because that's how he did it live. So and that's how I would test myself, like to see, and every little thing that flew by that I didn't nail in my practice years, it was practice, but it was also fun. It's like, there's nothing else I want to do. I come home from school. Everybody's like, oh, we're going out. My friends, we're going out to play or whatever we're doing. I'm like, I'll see you in a little bit. I got to play to an Aerosmith record first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was cooler than whatever else, but it was also testing myself, which I think was really good. And I think that's probably why I can jump into like different bands, because it's all drumming, but I also go like, there's no way I'm going to play Billy Idol's music the way I played like in Foreigner. There's a different swagger happening. There's a different feel,
Yeah.
And, Whitesnake, when you think Whitesnake, you think of a big arena rock, there's, and Foreigner is arena rock, but it's maybe a little not as heavy. And there's maybe a little, there's just some different stuff happening. And Yeah, and Billy Idol. I mean, she's huge songs, big, huge rock songs, and everybody knows them and loves them. And there's a lot of drum machine on them. But you have to like, how if I go see Billy Idol, I want to hear that. I want to hear dancing myself. Like I want to hear that like a machine. I want to hear tight 8th note hi-hats. I don't want to hear sloshy this and that. I don't want to hear like, Alex Van Halen, who's one of my favorite drummers in the world. I don't want to hear those style hi-hats on a song that's supposed to be, so I just try and adjust to that stuff. But I think that's just from trying to imitate, playing drums as a kid to records,
Absolutely. That's great, man. Hi, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Drum for the Song. I just wanted to briefly interrupt the interview to tell you about my Patreon page, which is a place where you can support the podcast and, of course, support myself. You can sign up to one of the 3 tiers on there. There's one that's £3 a month, one that is £5 a month, and one that is £10 a month. There are loads and loads of exclusive benefits to signing up, including bonus episodes, merch discounts, Christmas card for myself. If you sign up to the top tier, I'll send you a pair of my drumsticks. Loads of other stuff. So go check it out. It's patreon.com/drum for the song. And another way you could support me if you're interested, if you're not bothered about the Patreon thing, if you go to my official website, drumforthesong.com, you can send a donation via PayPal. So thanks for watching this and enjoy the rest of the show.
Drum for the Song podcast.
Obviously, you mentioned some of the bands you've played with. Have you got any like really memorable tours or shows that you've done?
Oh yeah, I mean, tons of like. I mean, every tour has been memorable. Like touring with Vinnie Moore. Plays in UFO. He's an amazing virtuoso guitar player. And I was like 23 or something, and we toured the U.S. clubs 6 nights a week, playing everywhere. It was my first time touring U.S. clubs for real, like on tour with my buddy JD on bass, who plays in Black Label Society. And so it was me, JD, and Vinny. And okay, so that was just awesome to be in a van on tour, playing all over the country. That's awesome. Making barely any money. Who cares? I was like, that was, and then in the middle of it, out of nowhere, which I wasn't even bringing this up because of this, but in the middle of it, we got told by his manager, Eric Johnson has to cancel his last 2 weeks opening up for Rush. You guys are going to go open up for Rush in arenas on the East Coast, and you're going to play the Philly Spectrum and 2 nights at Madison Square Garden and all the way up the coast to Buffalo, like 10 shows in 2 weeks. It was like, oh my God, I'd never been pulling up in our van with my Tama Swing Stars from high school into an arena in the afternoon, a bare arena that Rush's stuff is in, and Rush is playing that night, and I get to open up on their stage with my Tamas that I got because of Neil. Like, oh my God. So that whole little time period was amazing, just to be in touring clubs and then get in the middle of that, which was cool enough. Oh, we're going to stop that for a couple of weeks and you're going to play your Madison Square Garden, the place where your dad took you to see Kiss when you were 11. Now you're there at 3 p.m, looking at Neil's drums on stage, and you're about to set yours up in front of him. Holy shit, So yeah, that was awesome. But going to Europe the first time with Zakk Wylde, with the band Pride and Glory that we had, and playing Donington, opening up Donington was amazing because we played with Aerosmith and Pantera and Extreme, and I had never been over there. That was just amazing. And then to follow it up a year later, Zakk stopped. He stopped doing Pride and Glory, and because of playing with Zakk, I jammed with Slash a couple times, and I joined in with Slash because he put out his solo record in '95. And I remember we were somewhere, and after a show, I think Lars Ulrich came to the show, and he was talking with Slash after. Nobody introduced me to him, so I didn't bother to jump in there. Hello, but I just remember hearing them say something like, I was going, you up to Donington? Because Metallica was headlining '95. So I was like, yeah. So we finished our summer tour, and then we had to fly back to England to play Donington. Because Lars just simply asked Slash, you want to play Donington? It's like, so we put a call in, Slash, so we went. So that was great, just to play Donington 2 years in a row with two guitar players that I absolutely love, and I got to be their drummers, but, and spend all that time touring with them and, with Zakk making a record and touring with Slash. That was all great. So Donington and all that stuff was killer, and going to Japan the first time, South America with Slash the first time, Japan with Zakk the first time. That stuff's all killer. Playing Ozfest in 2000 with Ozzy. It was insane. Just
that's one thing I would be like, what, like being in that position. Like, one thing I want to touch on quickly is when you're learning other people's songs, for example, joining Ozzy or whatever, do you try and play them as close to the originals as possible, or do you try and put your own kind of spin on them, or a bit of both?
I try to be smart, and I try not to start with my spin at all. I don't think nobody's heard my spin on those songs, so who am I to sit here and go, hey, everybody knows freaking Crazy Train is an iconic classic hard rock song, and I'm going to change the freaking beat. No, man, I do my homework. Yeah. And if it's, well, whatever, all these bands I play with, I grew up on their music. So it's like, I know what's going on. I mean, I learned how to play drums to Foreigner music. I learned how to do a double stroke with my foot to Hot Blooded. That's where I learned. Like, that's every time on stage playing Hot Blooded, I look over at Mick Jones and I'm like, you don't get it. In 1978, I was 10 years old, and I learned to go bam, bam, boom, 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 bam, bam, because of that song. It took like 2 weeks, and it sucked, but eventually I got it. But
that's quite funny.
But anyways, so like, no, I'm going to go in there with respect to the songs, to the originals first. But then I do a couple things, which probably everybody should do. If you don't, I'm sure a lot of people do. If you're prepared and want to be prepared and want to come in and showing the band respect and preparation. But yeah, you listen to the original, and if it's a huge rock song that's on radio, that drum part on the radio is probably the most important to the people that come there. Even if they're not drummers, they don't care about it. It's a thing that they've heard a million times, whether they bought the record or they just heard it on the radio, so you want to stick to that unless the band has changed things, or unless, when you're playing a drum, like a Billy Idol song with like Flesh for Fantasy or Eyes Without a Face, drum machine stuff. Well, okay, do I want to totally sound mechanical, or do I want to make it like, okay, it's kind of funky? Do I want to make it groove a little bit? Well, then you're going to go to talk to Steve Stevens, who's a musical director, and and as long as he's cool with it, you know what I mean? I'm defaulting to you, because you wrote it, you were there recording it, it's yours. So I'm going to default to you. And hopefully I start in the ballpark, I give you a good feel and you're happy. But in the case where I played with Jeff Tate a bunch of years ago, and we did the whole Operation Mindcrime record and then a bunch of singles, like I had to learn that record top to bottom. I remember hearing it as a kid, and I thought it was really cool, but I wasn't like the biggest Queensryche fan, so I hadn't heard that in a long time. So what did I do first? And I was filling in for Simon Wright, and they had just started maybe that year doing this thing, this new lineup with Jeff playing Operation Mindcrime in its entirety. So I went first to the record because I know Queensryche fans, and I think Scott Rockenfield's a great drummer. So first thing is, okay, the record is the record. That's what everybody knows. That's the stuff. Then I would listen to Scott live during, like back then, live. Okay, what did he do? And then I listened to Simon. What's Simon doing? And because this is what I'm replacing Simon, but I'm replacing him doing a really iconic record with great drumming. So I defaulted to go right to the record, and I just charted the whole record out because I liked what Scott was playing, and I also thought, if I'm going to come in here, there's going to be people that are like, judging you, which there always are. But in that scenario, there's going to be more judges, or maybe judges that think they have bigger voices. But I want to make everybody happy. So it's not like it's some kind of battle or challenge. It's as much as it is, there's Queensryche fans coming to the show. Jeff he's the front man. He's going to do his thing, and we're all not Queensryche behind him. We're not the band that recorded it. So the least I can do is just try and give the fans as close as I can to the drum vibes on that record. And, the close to the same fills and the same beats and stuff, So yeah, man, it's also fun to do that, man. It can be a lot. You know, it could be like a lot to remember, where maybe some drummers do it better than me and they can commit it all to memory. But man, I don't, I've done it and it usually gets committed to memory. But when you're going for that much detail, yeah, that's a tall order, you know?
Yeah,
but
it is. So do you mean to say you've written them out and you have them next to you live, or just while you're learning them?
So it depends. Sometimes live, sometimes not. Like with something like Foreigner, Whitesnake, Billy Idol, I never had like charts on stage. Just I don't know why. Maybe it was the amount of rehearsals or the depth of how much I had to remember. You know, how much, you know, something like a Queensryche song. There's a lot more drumming happening, and a lot more maybe like random bits, like that you might have this little thing here that only happened once, and then that fill that only happens once. Whereas in a Billy Idol tune, you might have a groove that's happening 16 bars straight right into it, this fill that into another beat. You know what I mean? So there's less to detail to remember.
Yeah, less parts, less bits, and I get it.
Yeah, and it just depends. But no, like for Ozzy, or like I said, Whitesnake, Foreigner, Billy Idol. Most of the time I don't have charts up there, but for the Queensryche stuff, I had a notebook, man. I was trying to play every freaking fill, like from the record, you know? Wow. Yeah. And even when I got better at it, I still wasn't confident enough of myself to go, oh yeah, I've got it. Cause I didn't want to go, oh shit, you know, like, but I was behind a big drum set, and I'm definitely not like proud of sitting there, like, reading charts, but it's like, if I didn't, and I just did my own fills and beats, I didn't, you know, not my own, but just didn't pay that much attention, I wouldn't have been happy doing that either. You know, I wanted to, you know, and we didn't do that many rehearsals, and I was only filling in for like a month, you know, which was great because it ended up being more fill in. Like a year later, I did more, and then I did records with Jeff on his Operation My Crime, like trilogy records he did, you know, so it ended up being cool. But but I mean, then there's somebody like I've done a bunch of shows with Don Felder from the Eagles, and that is a machine, and it's, the band is killer. Don's awesome. I'm a freaking huge fan. I mean, I grew up playing at Hotel California and all that stuff as a kid. So my dad used to crank the Eagles all the time, and so these guys are a well-oiled machine. When Don does a show, it's like, this is how we do it, and I'm playing to a click. And there's some segues, and there's intros, and there's like things, but everybody in the band is killer, and they like clockwork, you know, they know what they're doing. So you just, and nobody has to, and in Don's world, you don't want to be a big showboat drummer, man. You want to just tuck in and get the groove done and play for the band. And that's it. I don't care if anybody's looking at me. I don't care if anybody knows I was there. I want to make the band happy. I want to make Don happy. The people are there because it's Don Felder, you know? And so there's no big swinging around, smashing cymbals and all that stuff, you know. But I put charts up because it's like, man, there are iconic parts there. And I was never Don's permanent drummer. I was filling in. So it would be like, we did one rehearsal, and I charted out the whole set, went and did a run through, and all right, cool, see you at the airport, whatever, you know. And then we did a bunch of shows. But you know, in those situations where I know I'm not going to be there long term, it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, it might be a couple shows, a weekend, whatever. It's pretty safe to say I'm not going to be able to commit that whole show to memory. But I also know these songs and love them, that I don't want to forget certain key things that are in these songs, you know. And he changed the way some of the things feel, you know, live. Like some, you know, his drummer would play it a certain way. So yeah, man, it's every situation is different, and it's more like, it's up to you, you know. Angus Young, Alex Van Halen, they don't have to worry about being a chameleon. They can just enjoy being in their band and being. I don't know that. I think I will always think that's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, I've had freedom enough where I can do my thing in certain bands, but it's always with respect to what's gone on before me, you know?
Yeah.
In Ozzy, you had Lee Kerslak's way of playing the stuff on Blizzard and Diary of a Madman. And then you had Tommy Aldridge's way of doing it. And I love both. And, you know, for example, Crazy Train's like 16 notes on the hi-hat and the verses. That's what Lee did. But I don't think Tommy ever did that live. but I loved them both, and I don't even remember what I did with Ozzy. I can't remember if I did, but because I don't think
neither can he probably.
Yeah, I don't remember because it's a little dancier and a little dancey fancier if you're doing the 16ths. But on the single, which everybody knows, that's what it is. But live in an Ozzy concert, is that necessary? Maybe not as much. And Tommy, I think he played it like more open eighths, open hi-hat eighths, and wow. And it worked, but I can't remember what I did. I don't remember. But if somebody told me to do it a certain way, I would have done it. You know,
yeah.
So that's another thing. You go, hey man, if you guys want, I always
ask if you're not sure.
If you want something a certain way, just tell me. I have no problem. If you hear it a certain way, I'm the new guy here. I just want to make you all happy.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. And it's not a thing that I've done a hell of a lot of, so it's really useful for me as well when I start doing more of that kind of stuff. Can you plug some of your equipment quickly? What are you using at the moment?
I've been with Ludwig for a bunch of years now. And if I wasn't, I'd be buying vintage Ludwig kits and snares, anyhow. So it's great to be with them. Peisty cymbals, because there's a sound there that I need to hear when I hit cymbals, and they have a certain thing that's just amazing. Remo heads, been using them since I started playing, never changed, and that's that. They're the best.
Cool, that's interesting. Never changed.
And always loved Remo, and whether it's black dots or the codeds or whatever, it all just works. It doesn't even look right if it's not if Remo's not on the drum. I don't know why. It doesn't even look. It looks kind of wrong, But and then I'm using a independent stick maker, LAR Sticks, Leroy Aaron Rhodes, LAR Sticks. He's a student of mine turned me onto him because he's in Wisconsin, I think, north part of the country, and he replicates and duplicates sticks, and he made me some stuff, and I was just like, was really impressed, and I was like, well, that's pretty simple. This was about a year. This year sometime, it was maybe the beginning of this year. He made me some stuff, and it was like January, February, and I was like, wow. He just did some great work, and now that I know him, I'm like, there's a lot of people know about him. He's always making sticks for people. It's just he doesn't promote in this way like a stick company, but he makes great stuff, and so it's LAR Sticks, L.A.R. And he's he's on Facebook and Instagram and all that. Yeah, so those are the sticks, and what else? Canopus snare wire, which is awesome, and I don't know. What else do we use? Latin percussion stuff.
Hardware stuff?
That's all.
Pedals?
Ludwig
Pedals?
Ludwig hardware.
Cool.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Just go with the company.
Yeah.
Use their stuff, they make great stuff. Yeah.
Great, man. And I saw on your YouTube channel, you kind of do, it's called Breaking Down Bonham. So do you want to kind of talk about that pretty quickly for anyone who might be interested? Yeah.
It's like I don't know. Last year, somebody turned me on to this band Led Zeppelin, and they said the drummer in Led Zeppelin's really good. This guy John Bonzo Bonham,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, he is really good. Wow, I never heard of him. No, but I don't know. It was a couple years ago, and I got to get on it more. There's only 2 Broken Down Bonham lessons right now. I have a couple more that after I had my studio fire, I lost the video. I don't know how it happened, but I had Fool in the Rain going, where I recorded it, and I got the tones and they sounded pretty good, and I charted Fool in the Rain out and I played to it, and I'm like meticulous about this, which is annoying because it's like you're never going to get the sound or the performance as good as Bonham, but you want to do it where it's like you're respecting, you've put time into the sound, not just the parts, and I didn't expect to do that when I started with the first song, Rock and Roll, but as I got more and more anal about it, what Breaking Down Bonham is, it's like, I don't know where else you can get something this intense and with someone digging this deep into the song, because it's not just like here's how you play it. It's me charting the whole song out. So there's my chart, like not every single little hi-hat written out. It's just like a general chart with everything in there. And then top to bottom. And then all my notes I made in preparation of what to explain in the song and things to think about. So you can even see like what I was thinking when I was trying to put it together. Then a video of me playing the whole song top to bottom with the music lightly mixed in the back. And then me playing just the drums top to bottom. Then like an hour plus video lesson of me just going down the whole song top to bottom. But it's not, here's how you play bar 1. Here's how you play bar 2. It's, if you want, like, for example, rock and roll, okay, here's how you count the beginning, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing. But the whole song is 2 hands together in eighth notes, open hi-hat and snare. It's the old school rock and roll way, which I always associated as a kid with Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, because I'd always see him going, gah, gah, you know. But that's just like old school rock drummers. That's how they played. And so that was Bonham's tip of the hat there, playing the song rock and roll in that fashion. You know, which the intro of the song is off of I Hear You Knocking, or Keep It Knocking, but I Hear You Knocking. That's it. Awesome. And which the intro of that song is very, very similar to rock and roll, which is where John got it. I've told people, oh, you can hear it in your head like Johnny Be Good from Chuck Berry, because you can hear where the downbeat falls on the guitar. So if you just, instead of talking in terms of numbers and it's exactly this song historically, that's where he got it from. That's cool. But musically, if you really want to hear it in your head, how to hear the beginning, just think of something that's more well known than the Little Richard song, which is Johnny Be Good. And think of the guitar, you know, and so because I've seen some people write, it's not from Johnny Be Good, it's from the Little Richard. Yeah, I know, but it's not as easy to hear musically. You know, you want to grab it in your head and hear the intent of what it is. You know, think of the Johnny Be Good guitar riff. But anyways, I go through the whole song. But I also did it with the 3 mic Glenn Johns technique, because I started bugging out on trying to tune my drums like Bonham's, which was just not easy. Like I got the toms, that was okay. But trying to blend in 3 mics and, you know, mimicking something they did in 1970, you know what I mean? It was it's like a tall order. But I went for it and I got pretty close, like with the kick and the snare. And once you get close, you go, well, I guess this is what I'm going to do every time, because then I did the crunge next, and the crunch is a totally different drum sound, and I think that they might even slow that song down a smidge, because I remember my bass drum, which is also 26, same as Bonham's, I had it tuned and his was lower, and then his hi-hat pitch seemed lower, so it's like, oh man, because they were messing around with tape speed back then, you know, they sped when the levee breaks down, no quarters sped down, they'd slow down a song, Plant would sing, then they'd speed the song back up. They were doing a lot of that stuff, you know? So, but anyways, so that's what's there, but it's really, I haven't promoted it much, but anybody that's signed in and bought it and it's all been great feedback, because I don't know, you can go on YouTube and watch a ton of people talking about Bonham and playing Bonham, but it's not only about how to play the song. It's how, this is all the stuff in the song, but these are exercises as well to get to learn how to play those parts of the song. Instead of just play this, do this, it's like, but don't just do that. You have to do this first, you know? Yeah. And that's why it takes a while. That's why it's like an hour-long video. And then even the ending of rock and roll, but all that, it's like, there's a lot going on there. And it's not just, here's how you do it. You have to know how to do certain things to get to that. So I put more time into it, then you have to edit it all. And then I'm balancing the audio from the Pro Tools and syncing it up with the video. It took a long time. And that's probably why I haven't done more of it, because it does take a while and it's a dedicated thing. Like, I'm going to dig in to Fool in the Rain today. I'm going to bug out for hours on getting the snare drum sound right, the mics right. That was done at Polar Studios in Sweden in this huge room with an amazing sound, and I'm in a garage, but I'm still going to try, you know what I mean? Yeah. Still try to get it close. It's somewhere in the ballpark. But yeah, that's it, man. It's at briantichy.com and it's Breaking Down Bonham. And like I said, right now, but it doesn't matter. There's only 2 songs. If you haven't, signed up for either one of those, then whatever, you dig in, try one and see what you think, because, it's not like, oh, cool, I bought this one today. There's 10 others, so I'm going to do the other 10. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to take someone a while to get through it all.
Yeah, and you know, hey, and I'm not saying I'm the only one that can do this. I mean, like, there's some drummers I know, you know, killer drummers out there that would put this on and go, yeah, of course, yeah, and they'd get it. But I'm saying for the average drummer that's in the bottom, there's a lot going on that a lot of people haven't thought about inside these songs, and it's not just the cool fill or the cool beat; it's the transitions and it's how you make it all work. And then, you know, and then of course, if you're playing it on a drum set that sounds like it's in the ballpark, it makes it that much more enticing to the person who's watching, you know, because it's, you know, I don't think you'd get the point across as much if you were doing it on a drum set that sounded like Steve Gadd's. You know, it's just different thing happening, you know.
Absolutely. Definitely. One quick thing. How much do you remember about September 2012, the Marshall 50 Years of Loud? I think you played with my old man.
Yeah, we had a great time. I was actually going to say that before, when you're talking about like memorable shows and stuff. That was an amazing experience to play with all these great guitar players. Yeah, including your dad. You know, which I had, like I said, I thought of this, but I started thinking about all these other things as well.
Oh, yeah, I don't blame you.
Over all these years. Yeah, there's still probably a whole mess more I could bring up, but yeah, that was great just because I was a house drummer, and it was like, I don't know, a 4-hour show, and it was, you know, your dad as well as my buddy Doug Aldrich and Yngwie and Satriani and Zakk and Kerry King and oh man, there's just so many great players, and Nico McBrain was co-host or hosting, and yeah, it was just amazing to be able to. I was on tour with this little thing, myself, Doug Aldrich, and Whitesnake's bass player Michael Devin. The three of us had a little trio called Steamroller, and we were just doing clubs in Europe. And in between, we had that date happened at what was Wembley Arena, right?
I think so. Yeah. I did. Yeah, I annoyingly didn't go. I wish I'd gone, but my younger brother went.
Yeah, but it was, yeah, that was great. And to make it an even crazier day, well, we had like two days of rehearsal prior to that, I think. But the day of the show, we did a full show run through, like,
wow.
Like, and then 2 hours later, the show started. It might even been an hour later. I just remember doing the whole run through, going in the dressing room and showering, and then starting again for another 4 hours. You know,
wow.
So it was a really long day, but it was a great experience. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. There's evidence on YouTube for anyone that's interested, because I think it was obviously a one-night thing. So unless you were there, yeah, you want to check out YouTube.
Yeah. I think it was Glenn Hughes and Yngwie doing "Mistreated," and Corey Taylor from Slipknot singing a Pantera song with Kerry King on guitar.
Yeah,
there's a lot of. Ripper Owens was there. You know, yeah, it was killer night.
Yeah, awesome. Man, sounds awesome. I've got a Patreon page, but I've got a few questions. But I'm only going to ask you one because of the time. Only because I'm interested to hear if that's cool. You've worked with a huge variety of singers. This is from Paul Hutchins, by the way, from Ozzy to Coverdale and Jeff Tate, to name just three. Those three and a number of others come with some interesting baggage. How do you approach gigs you get with more eccentric vocalists that you work with? I don't know.
No, I get it. Somebody wants to know what's it like to work with all these people with you know, solid personalities and long ass careers in the spotlight and being stars. You know, it's like, yeah, man, they're all interesting characters, but they're all different. I think I was probably with Ozzy. I just man, I mean, he was totally cool. He was coming, you know, before the show or after the show, and it was always nice. And yeah, man, he was just a straight up nice guy. But I didn't spend like quality time with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coverdale's a little more like overall approachable. Like, I mean, he does his thing on tour, but you know, he really just wants everybody to be like, he's always in a great mood. He's always up, and he wants to feel the camaraderie of the band. And backstage, on stage, traveling, like, you could tell. I mean, so basically just David wants to feel your energy that you're bringing him, and he's giving you his energy, and he wants that to be a big thing on the road and we're in working together. And like I said, he's always up. He's the center of attention. He's funny. He's witty. He's quick. He's great. He's totally cool, and he lets you know what he thinks. So getting a band, getting Whitesnake. He wants to tell the world, hey man, this guy's a great drummer, and that's why he's in my band. So it's good for you, and he's proud of you, so that kind of vibe's always there. And Jeff Tate, man, he was great. He was actually pretty freaking mellow. Like, when I toured with him, I guess there was that Queensryche stuff going on. Like, he wasn't in the band, but there was still the other band. I guess there was battling going on. So that affected guarantees of both bands. Now you have two versions traveling around. Yeah. So so I think that affected, his travel accommodation, travel, what he's used to travel wise and touring wise, budgets and all that stuff. But man, he was nothing but cool. He was just always a really nice guy. He was really mellow. Like, he kept to himself, talked to you, no ego. And I'm like, but you know what? This is your world. This is your vision. This is your thing. And I'm here helping out. And I just want to make you happy. And I did, because we worked together after that. But yeah, man, like, I didn't know him, and he was just always nice and respectful, complimentary. And it's been a while since I've seen him or worked with him, but man, he was just always nothing but nice,
Brilliant.
But like, all of them were, covered up was nothing but nice. He was a little bit, maybe the comedian, Ozzy's funny as, he's a character. That's Ozzy, he's a character, just his voice. It's a thing, we all know it. Coverdale's more of a comedian, like, he's loud and boisterous and uppity and, quick-witted, like, but he makes you laugh, makes you smile, because it's infectious, and Jeff's more just like, hey man, what's up? Don't worry about me here. I'm just hanging out. You know what I mean? And then he gets on stage and owns it, So, it's always, to work with people like that. I mean, because I look at them like, I just want to learn from you. You've done stuff I haven't done. You've first of all, you're a singer. I wish I could sing like those guys. They're all amazing singers. They really are. I mean, all of them in their prime are insane. You think about Ozzy back in his prime with Sabbath. It's amazing. It was such a distinctive voice. And Coverdale, one of the biggest, mightiest rock vocalists of the vocal sounds and tones of all time. Yeah. And Jeff, this progressive metal, guy, I mean, from the lows to the highs, Tate is insane, these guys have proven it over and over for years and years. And, but I just look at them like, man, there was a time nobody knew who you guys were. And then you brought it to the top. You took it to the top and became like, where you could seriously sustain the rest of your life as a singer, as a front man. And that's what everybody knows you as and loves you as. And I have so much respect for people like that. And you can't help but learn from them, It's not a drummer thing at that point. It's more of an ambition goal thing. It's more, you're just hoping some of their energy rubs off on you one way or another, which it does, it's like, you always want to play with people better than you, if you don't want to like be the big fish in the small pond. I'm going to go to my local, go to some small town and think I'm Mr. Cool here because I had a gig with some rock star, no, you want to play, if you got here, you want to go to there, then you want to go to there, and you want to keep proving yourself. And that's, and from being around those people, you take that in, you internalize those experiences, and hopefully it just keeps going.
Yeah. And you've done really well out of it, and hopefully you will continue to do well. I'm going to do a quick 10-question quick fire round that everyone does. Be really, really quick. And then we'll wrap it up. Do you prefer hot or cold weather?
I should just say it. I prefer hot or cold. Hot.
Okay. Daytime or nighttime?
Night.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Guitar or bass?
Guitar.
Nylon or wood tip?
Wood tip.
I think I know your answer to this next one. John Bonham or Neil Peart? However you say it.
Neil Bonham and John Peart.
Yeah.
Bonham's my number one, but Peart is number two. It's like
they're so close. Oh man.
For me, yeah.
Sorry to ask.
A lot of us.
Sorry to ask. Yeah. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
So yeah, I say yeah. How can you really pick? Let's go Beatles.
Great. Clear or coated drum heads?
As long as there's heads on the drums. I go coated. Yeah, just go coated.
Yeah, I like coated as well. Big or small venue?
Big.
You've done lots of them. Favorite time signature to play?
I could say some stupid number. That makes no sense, but 25. No, man, come on. 4/4.
Yeah.
4/4 owns the planet.
It does.
Done deal.
Yeah. Totally, man. That's cool. So the very last one that everyone does is if you could be in your dream band with yourself on drums, featuring other musicians, dead or alive. I normally say not including the band you've already played with, but you've played with so many people. I think you're going to have to include some of them if you want.
I know where you're going.
How would you? Who would you pick?
Paige Plant Jones.
Yeah. There you go. That was easy, man. That's great.
Yeah, but if I couldn't, if I had to be a little creative, I just for anybody listening that and just for myself to think of this, let's go Tyler.
Nice.
Van Halen.
Nice.
It's Steven Tyler, Eddie Van Halen, and Chris Squire from Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
There you go. That's interesting. That's a good one.
That would be fun. I don't know what it would sound like, but I don't care.
Yeah, it would be rad, man. It'd be rad. That's great. Well, if people want to follow you, where can they go? I know I'm following you on a few things.
Yeah, this is Instagram, Brian Tichy Drums, and Twitter. I think it's just Brian Tichy, and Facebook.
Yeah,
Brian Tichy.
Just search it. And
I think that's it.
Am I right in thinking that you do remote lessons? If anyone wanted lessons, do you have any spaces available?
Yeah. I don't. It's not like a regular thing. I don't. But I've been getting a few more calls than normal. So yeah, I do. Whenever
cool.
Somebody writes me, I hook it up. But it's funny you brought it up, because recently I've been thinking, it's like I should just put it out there that I'm available, because I haven't in a while, and it's just people that have either seen me do this or that, whatever. They go, hey, do you give lessons? Or I want to learn this, or I've started whatever it is, and let's do it. But I'm like, I should promote it a little bit more, because I don't, and maybe people aren't aware of it, and that's you got to keep the word out there to let people know.
Absolutely.
So,
I only heard about it because I listened to some other interview you did, a year or two ago, and then I was like, oh, cool, I didn't know that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a regular thing. I know there's friends of mine that teach regularly, and I'm like, well, the only way I'm going to teach more is if I just let people know that I'm available. So I think I have to do that. And but yeah, I dig it. It's easy. It's like, whether it's FaceTime or Skype or whatever, it's easy. But I dig teaching. I've been teaching, since I was a teenager, pretty much, and I just I just go for, what do you want to do? Where are you at? Let me hear you play. And what do you want to accomplish? And let me see what you do. And then I start from there. And everybody's different, it's not like, here's my method and you have to, follow these guidelines, or this is the way I do it. It's not that at all. But there are some basic things that it's like, it's a really good idea to have these things under your belt before you think you're going to get to these other places you want to go,
Yeah, man.
So, but right. I love when students feel an improvement. That's what they're paying you for. And because I know those feelings. And that's all I try and do is get it where it's like, you felt that difference. There was a little breakthrough. Yeah, it's going to make you happy. It's going to make you want to play more, and you're going to get better. And that's what I think a teacher should do. Not everybody's going to be, the next Louis Bellson or Neil Peart or Bonham. But you know what? With a little help, everybody can get to be better drummers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, great, man. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for giving me your time today. We look forward to whatever you've got coming up in the next year or two. Is there anything else you want to plug, or tours or anything like that? I'm not involved with anything right now that's happening this year. I wish I was, and you never know what anything can change or develop. But man, it's weird because as I say that, now we're watching like this whole, what do they call it, Delta variant, and a lot of bands have canceled stuff recently, whether it's somebody in the band getting coronavirus or they're just like doing it because for the safety of the fans and the band. So it's like, it's crazy that's happening again. Everything got up and rolling, and now a whole bunch of stuff's canceling, and who knows how long that'll last. But hopefully, next year I did it a couple years ago. There's this band called Bees in Japan. They're like the biggest. They're like Guns N' Roses meets Bon Jovi of Japan. They're massive, and they've been massive for like 30 years. And I've done a lot of recording for them over 20 years or so. So I knew the guys, but I never toured with them. And then they asked me a couple of years ago, come over and tour for the summer, which I did in 2019. And I was supposed to last year, but the pandemic happened, and this year was canceled as well. So I'll be over there next summer with them. Cool. Which is cool because it's like, at least I mean, they're great. It's a great band. It's like arenas all over Japan, it's great guys, and it's big, loud power rock and some funk and, whatever. It's a big rock show, so it's a lot of fun. And Japan is a killer country. Everybody's super nice and organized and respectful. So it's like a whole, it's a different world when you live over there for a while. It's an experience, but, I'll be doing that, and hopefully some other stuff will pop up before then. Yeah, and there was a couple other things that don't matter right now that I could have been involved in, but it was like I can't do two things at once, so I had to sort of figure it out. But yeah, cool. We'll just keep following you and find out later on whenever things happen. You dropped your sticks.
I know. I know. I'm surprised it didn't happen like 20 more times throughout the interview.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening on the audio, he's been kind of twirling sticks for the whole interview. So that's been exciting. That's been cool to watch. So thanks, Brian. This is a great episode, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Well, thank you for having me on and being interested in having me on and letting me babble way longer than I thought I was going to. But I have a tendency to do that because when you ask questions like that, it's really it reminds me or brings up memories spanning lots of time and lots of experiences. So then I start babbling,
That's cool, man. Maybe we can do a part 2 in a few years' time and you'll have more stories. That'd be amazing.
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Thanks, Brian. That's been amazing, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Have a great day.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye.
Drum for the Song podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Drum for the Song podcast. If you've enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave me a review or comment, that would be fantastic too, as it helps other people discover this show. Please also consider sharing this with any family members or friends who might enjoy the content. You can also follow me on social media at Dane_drums or at Drum for the Song, or search for Drum for the Song on Facebook to follow the page and join the official Facebook group. If you'd like to support the podcast, you could purchase some merchandise from drumforthesong.com, or consider supporting me via Patreon from just £3 per month for additional exclusive content like bonus episodes, video calls with myself, competitions, discounts, and much more. Any additional support is always greatly appreciated, but I would like to give extra special thanks to my top tier Groove Master patrons, whose names are listed in the description below. My name is Dane Campbell, and thanks so much for watching or listening this far. If you're a drummer, don't forget to drum for the song.